We created this outsourced prospecting service to really fill a need that we saw in a lot of shops and a lot of companies. And the need was they had salespeople, but nobody was really hunting. Nobody's really spending the daily time doing research, making cold calls, reaching out to new customers. There's a lot of reasons. It's inefficient. It's far away from actually getting checks in the bank. You got other customers that are paying you money right now that are calling all the time. So what we found was these companies, a lot of times they didn't have anybody who was just sitting down and daily prospecting for new companies or new customers. And because of that, the pipeline would get empty. When the company's full of work, they'd fulfill all that, and then they'd be dry, and then they're laying people off, or they're they've got cash flow issues and other issues like that. So we created this process where we target specific accounts, then we target the decision makers at those accounts, and then the majority of the work is in the third step, and that is contacting them and qualifying them to see do they match our clients' criteria of what kind of companies they work with. And once they're qualified and they have a real near-term opportunity that matches our client, that's when we pull in our client and get them involved. And then from there, after they've quoted it and met with the prospect, then they take it from there and take them on as a customer. And that's been pretty effective for most type of manufacturing suppliers that really sell to the plants. It's kind of a tricky sale because you've got a lot of complexities that make it difficult. And we've really just developed a really good, strong core competency where there's 1,000 different details that we do well that end up producing the result for our clients of really good qualified opportunities for them to digest. Our process is pretty complex, but we try to keep it simple for our clients. We target specific companies within the manufacturing industry, and each client has a different criteria of the kinds of companies they work with. But we typically will look at 10 different companies, and out of that 10, we'll choose one to consider a prospect. And then once we consider a company a prospect, we've got a handful of databases with really, really modern data, really up-to-date and clean data that we use to get their email and their contact information, their direct dial phone number. And then we use a handful of touchpoint tools like email, phone calls, which is the primary one, text messages, voicemails, digital ads. We really use all types of touch points and really try to dial in a process for each client that's really effective. And then once we've identified a decision maker, we put them in what we call our polite persistence regimen, where they get regular touches from us that lets them know what our client does, what the client's value is. And over time, they start to develop an awareness of our client, of their value, and then when the time is right, where they've got an opportunity that really matches our client's top of mind, and we're all there at the table ready to look at that opportunity. Whenever we kick off with a new client, we spend at least a half day when a kickoff meeting where we're going through all the details of what kind of companies you want to target, who makes decisions at those companies, what kind of pains they have, how you solve those pains, what doing business with you would look like. And we really try to absorb as much of that as we can. And then from there, we go off and we get set up in about a week, and then we really hit the ground running, and we're on the phone trying to light up the phone with as many prospects as possible. And then there's a feedback loop between us and the client where we run into technical issues with each client. Each client's technical side of the business is different. And we don't try to pretend that we knew everything about the technical side of our client's business. But that's where the feedback loop comes in, and we need a resource at our client to really help us overcome those technical hurdles that the prospects really are looking for. So we're manufacturing guys. We developed a process that really is effective for manufacturing. There's a lot of generic tools out there that are B2C tools or service-oriented B2B tools, but they're not really tailored for manufacturing. So we're manufacturing guys. We developed this. We do the work ourselves. We really just built a process tailor-made for manufacturing that really works well. One of the main things that we do, which is really one of the central value propositions of our outsourced prospecting service, is when we make contact with a decision maker, we don't just pass off a lead. We don't just set an appointment. We stay with that prospect until they are ready to buy, until they are qualified, until we've identified that the budget's there, that the technical side matches our client's capabilities, that the time frame is near term, not long term. If it's long term, a lot of what we do is follow up. We've identified decision makers. They're interested in our client, but it's just not the right time. We stay on top of those until all the check boxes are checked, and then it's really time for our client to come in. And everything happens under our client's brand. So it never looks like we're a service or we're a broker or anything like that. The prospect always thinks that we're there inside of our client's office. So the handoff is, we try to make it as natural as possible, but it's typically a joint phone call between us, the client, and the prospect. And from there, if everything is good and everything is what the client wants, then the client takes it from there. And it kind of looks like business development is handing it off to an account manager. Is kind of what we aim to do, or make the handoff look like. We've been able to get our clients into companies of all sizes. We don't target many companies under $1 million in revenue. There's just not a lot of opportunity there for our clients. All the way up to the biggest companies you can think of. Whirlpool, Procter & Gamble, General Motors, Sikorsky Aircraft, things like that. And it's been pretty effective. But I would say most of our clients are targeting mid-market type companies where there's not just layers and layers of bureaucracy that takes a long time to court and to get into, where there's somewhat of a quicker sale, but there's still enough meat on the bone where they can really take on a good customer. So there's a lot. I would say most of our clients are used to applying old school methods to their sales and marketing. And old school could look like a lot of things. Sometimes trade shows, sometimes direct mail. A lot of times our clients have tried manufacturing reps, or they've taken and hired W-2 employees, salespeople, and they've positioned them geographically wherever they think it makes sense. We find that a lot of shops, because they don't have a lot of incoming opportunities, they kind of get out of their sweet spot with the work that they do, and they start getting into other stuff, which causes problems in the company, maybe not as fun, maybe not as profitable. And the nice thing about our process is we can apply our process to any niche, so we can really enable our clients to really stick to their sweet spot and not feel like they have to get out of that sweet spot just to keep revenue coming in the door. So some of our clients don't have any salesperson, and that's why they hire us. Others have salespeople that are more account managers or technical salespeople, where they're really best in front of current customers or at the very end of a sales process with new customers, where it's really technical and the relationship is just starting to bud. But what we found is with those kind of companies, a lot of times they've tasked their salesperson with both hunting, doing all the prospecting, and then once they get a customer, managing that account and that relationship. And what we found is that those are really two different skill sets, and that somebody who's good at the account management is not necessarily great at the prospecting, and somebody who's great at prospecting isn't as great as they could be at the account management. And really what it boils down to is the prospecting is not as comfortable as anything else they're doing, so they just gravitate away from it. And then over time, nobody's doing prospecting. One of the good things about our service is we don't do anything else. Every day, all we do is prospect. So one of the questions a lot of people ask us is how much of their time is required. So we do about a half-day kickoff, and then we do need somebody who's a main point of contact that we can ask questions and get feedback from. But we're doing all the work. So we're identifying the target accounts. You don't need to give us those. We're doing the research on who makes decisions at those companies. The main thing that we do is make calls. We make tons of calls. So we're making all those calls, and we're doing it every day. And clients like knowing that pressure is off. They don't have to carve out time to do that. Somebody's doing that every day, and that's all that they're tasked with doing. So there's good accountability there. And then we just kind of do everything. We don't want our clients to have an extra task of managing us, which they would have if they hired somebody. We just want to free them up to do what they do, and we'll go out and find people that they can do that for. When we engage with a new company, most of the time they've been doing this in-house to some degree, whether successfully or not successfully. It really is a skill set, and we've developed that as our core competency. Just like a lot of our clients do 1,000 things better than their competition to make the best stamped part or to be the best cutting tool distributor. There's 1,000 details that we do really well that makes us really effective. That's our core competency. And that's one of the reasons why we think it makes sense to outsource that to a company who really excels in that. There's thousands of details and tons of latest and greatest tools that we use that make our process really effective. For our clients, we don't want them to have to worry about any of that. All they need to know is that we've developed a process and continue to improve a process for them specifically that just delivers results, and that is new qualified opportunities. So our basic process is, one, we identify target accounts. We look at all of the accounts in our database, and we've got every U.S. manufacturer in there. We look at about 10 to find one that we consider a qualified target prospect. And then from there, we go in and we look at who are all the people that are making decisions. And we've got a handful of databases that have really, really current data that we use to identify their email and their direct dial phone number. And then we contact and qualify them. And we use a handful of touch points to get in touch with them and confirm that they are the decision maker, and then to find out if they're interested and if all the technical criteria matches. And then from there, once it's qualified, then our client takes over and they run with that opportunity until it's closed and they're a customer. So for most of our clients, there are three main sales goals. And one is to grow revenue. Two is to diversify their customer base or their industry base. And then three is to really focus on a more profitable niche of work. And we've found that most companies, when they come to us, either sales are stagnant or declining, or they've tried hiring salespeople, they've tried promise the world digital marketing, they've tried sales reps, and they've kind of fallen flat, and they're looking for something that's really just effective. And what we tell our customers, it's not a fit for everybody, but for companies that it is a fit, you're going to get more results for less money than a lot of the alternatives.
The factor is taking the pressure off of me to feel like I have to do this, because they do the prospecting and they just bring me qualified leads. So the factor's been better than any of the other sales guys I've ever had, because when they bring me a lead, it's usually a decent lead and something that I can run with.
Here's what Factor does. It allowed us to not have to add another position full-time internally, because we've tried that in the past and it's been unsuccessful. You have somebody dedicated to cold calling and prospecting, but then they end up eventually, as the business grows, they're taking on more account management stuff that's taking away from their ability to cold call. So it starts out as a good idea to bring somebody on full-time internally, but like I said, as they become successful, they're creating more work for themselves. That's limiting their ability to continue to the cold call. So that's what Factor brings, is somebody out there constantly pounding the pavement on our behalf, and they always feel like a member of the team, in meetings and trade shows, phone calls, emails. We moved forward with Factor because we saw a lot more benefit to having a third party prospecting on our behalf as opposed to somebody with a full-time position internally. And just the skill set, just listening to Factor over the phone on the joint calls that we'll have, the emails, the marketing, they have a great process that we wouldn't be able to maintain or develop, on our own without investing a lot of time and money that we don't have as a small growing startup. Not only did they bring in opportunities that, of the scope and size and customer size that we're used to getting ourselves, but starting the conversations with the bigger customers that we haven't been able to get our foot in the door with. The email campaign, the marketing campaign, like I said, the strategy that they have in place, just they're able to break down a lot more doors than we are as individuals here.
Our prospecting service isn't a fit for every company. We don't pretend that it is, but we'd like to have a 15-minute phone call just to go through the nuts and bolts to see if it would fit and work for your business or not. So if it is, reach out and let's have a chat.